Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shonda Andrews, and I am the Director of Development for the 1890 Universities Foundation. To give you a little bit of background about the foundation, we are based in the Washington, D.C. area. Um, I have the pleasure of working with an amazing team, and we partner with Jonathan Lambley on our urban and community forestry funding. This has been a great experience because this has also been the largest funding in the foundation's history. And we'll get into a bit more in a second why this is our largest grant funding to date and why it's so important. I'm sorry, I'm going forward. Just to tell you a little bit about our roots, we were created out of the Second Morrill Act. And when I say we, I mean the 1890 universities. August 30th, 1890 was a very important act that was signed into law that gave land to Black students so that they would have access to education in agriculture, engineering, and science. So our mission at the foundation is to help build capacities at these universities and the communities that they serve. Our communities are largely marginalized communities who are oftentimes forgotten and under-resourced. And so what we try to do is break down some of those barriers to education, economic mobility, and environmental justice in the communities that surround our universities. So just to show you a little map of where our universities are located, they are mainly in the southeastern part of the United States. You may see some familiar universities here. It's North Carolina A&T, there is Tuskegee, Florida A&M, South Carolina State University, Tennessee State Universities, and we call ourselves the 19 Strong. There are 19 universities in our network that we partner with and support. So this is our president and CEO, Dr. Jewel Bernal. Dr. Bernal has just joined the foundation in January, and just a little bit of a quote from her that you can read here. This is our shared values. This is what we tout across our network, and really what we stand by in our principles. We know that it's going to take some bold ideas, and it's going to take our foundation to speak up about these issues to make sure that we provide or that we can bring equity to our 19 universities. I'm going to go into the historical context. I know some folks may not know or have heard of the 1890s. So I just want to kind of shine a light on why this funding is important and why we were able to distribute this funding across our universities. On your screen, you'll see some funding disparity facts across the 1890s. So the 1862s are the first agricultural land grant institutions that came into existence from the Morrill Land Grant Act. It was passed in 1862, and it gave the states federal land to sell. And those proceeds were used to start public colleges in agriculture, science, and engineering. Now, these institutions were predominantly white, and Black students were not allowed in those universities. In 1890, that is when the Second Morrill Act was passed. And that act of Congress was able to provide land for Black students so that they could have institutions where science, agriculture was taught, and to close the equity gap then. But as you see, there is an equity gap that still remains at our universities, which is why we're so happy that Forest Service has taken on to give us this funding so that we can serve our communities and our universities to decrease that gap, to bring more resources to them and their communities. Some of these big numbers are, there is a research expenditures are 3 times greater at 1862s versus 1890s. As of 2019 into the 2020 year, there was a $2 billion funding gap between 1890 universities and 1862 universities. And there is a collective endowment at 1862 that is 45 times greater than that of 1890s. So as you can see, our universities are strapped for capacity and resources. So our role in this funding is what I said. It's to support our universities, making sure that their programming is implemented and that they can serve their communities quickly. We want to make sure that we're seeing long-lasting and sustainable change in our communities. Oftentimes they are long forgotten, but these funds will go a long way into improving the communities. So just to give you an overview of how our funding works and how our programming works, phase one of our funding, we have two university partners, South Carolina State and Tennessee State, and they have already begun the work. So to tell you a bit about South Carolina State's project, they have two initiatives. The first one is a silvo pasture agroforestry project, and that's on their research and demonstration farm. They will be planting pine trees, um, which allow livestock to graze and benefit from the shade, cooling off some of that land. And so it's a forward-thinking approach to sustainable agriculture and livestock management at South Carolina State. Secondly, they're expanding their urban forestry programming across 10 counties in South Carolina, and they're going to start with the most underserved communities in South Carolina. They will be planting 350,000 trees, both fruit bearing and non fruit bearing, but this will go a long way to improve the air quality around those counties and reduce the urban heat islands. And it'll also provide access to fresh food, fresh produce in these areas. So we're very excited about that program. At Tennessee State, they're a bit farther in their work, but they are focusing on urban wetland sustainability at Tiger Bay Wetlands in downtown Nashville. And so they're doing research around invasive species management, climate resilience, and they have a very great workforce development program where they actively involve students in collecting the data, training the students on how to survey the land, survey the wetlands. And so what I'm going to do next is actually show you some footage from Tennessee State that talks about the program, the students and their experience, and it's just about a minute long.
Hey, Shonda, the audio is not coming through.
Oh, gotcha. Thanks for that. We'll try it one more time.
Are working with some students that are bridging into college, and we are exposing them to different types of research. One of the things we're doing is we're asking them to help us get a baseline so that we know if it makes a difference.
It's just been absolutely beautiful, and I'm super grateful for everyone that's been involved and put all their blood, sweat, and tears into this program, because it takes a lot. I just never thought that I would be as well off as I am doing something that I actually love.
This is the groundbreaking work happening at our 1890 universities, from high-tech labs to innovative agricultural projects. Your support is how we continue our legacy. Together, we can carry this work of innovation and education into the future.
Through
Thank you for bearing with me on some of the tech challenges there. But that is the work that's happening at Tennessee State University. So we're very excited. The students are excited. And so we're happy to see what happens there and the long-term effects of the community in Nashville and also the Tennessee State students. So with phase two of our funding, we are bringing on 6 additional partners in our 19 strong network. You'll see Tennessee State there again because there is a smaller project that they do have. But these universities have projects that span workforce development, working with students in the community engagement, really listening to the community about their needs and serving their needs, getting the high school students involved, the college students involved in planting trees. And so we're really excited about all of these projects, but phase two is kicking off in October. And so there's more to come with phase two. And then we have a phase three, which is our final phase of our program. So phase three is our competitive grants program, which we have called Rising from Roots. We are spending $7 million in competitive grants across the remaining 19 strong universities. We're focused on tree planting and urban forestry sustainability, community engagement, and workforce development. We know that that is key to this funding. As Dana mentioned, it's the key to sustainable funding. It's the key to making sure that these communities actually see impactful change. And so that is closing next week. We're excited about all the applications that we get to review so that we can give these funds to the programs that are the most innovative, that are going to do great work. So stay tuned for updates on that as well. So you may ask, all of this knowledge, you've learned what an 1890 is, you've learned a little bit about the foundation. What can you do next? And so we're asking you to join our mailing list. That's the easiest way to stay up to date about the projects that we have going on, the funding, and how our universities are really making change in their communities. Secondly, we are always looking for partners, whether that's a strategic partner, whether that's a funding partner, whether it's a grassroots corporate, whatever it may be. We're looking to partner with organizations. We are fairly new, so we want to make sure that we have partners on our side that can advocate for us near and far, to share the message about the 1890s, to make everyone aware about the 1890s and how amazing they are in the work that they're doing, and how this funding is actually going to change many communities. That is it for me. Thank you.